Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be doing something a little different. It was time for me to share my anticipated releases video, and this year I have been doing them quarterly, or I put one video out at the beginning of the year / end of December, my anticipated releases for January, February, March. And then I started creating my April, May, June releases list, and April was significantly more than May and June. And so I don't know if April just has a ton of books coming out, or if it's just a better idea to do this monthly. I'm not 100% sure. This time we're going to do just the 1 month, and then we'll see in the future if I do it monthly or go back to like quarterly-ish or how that's going to work. But today I'm going to talk about quite a few books coming out in April that I am excited about. So we're going to start things off with a bang. Brandon Sanderson, Secret Project number 2, which I know nothing about, is coming out on April 1st. So he's doing quarterly this year, the first of the month. And we bought the ebook versions because we live in Canada and shipping is expensive. And I'm purposefully staying away from too many spoilers going into this. I don't know the title. I don't know the genre. I think there's different genres for his books. I don't know. I don't know what this is, but I'm excited about whatever it is because he has not disappointed me. I don't even know if I've ever given one of his books 3 stars. They've all been like 4 or 5 stars. He did say in his Kickstarter, when he was talking about all these books that he's releasing this year, which is insane, that there was a few different genres, that there was going to be some science fiction, some fantasy, I think maybe one with middle grade. No, I don't think that was part of it. I don't know. I don't know what this is, but I'm looking forward to it. And then, like releases do, we move on to the 4th. I think it's like Tuesdays are the days books come out. Let's just continue talking about Brandon Sanderson. So for those who did not pre-order this Kickstarter package where he accidentally wrote a bunch of extra novels during COVID, Tress of the Emerald Sea is coming out on April 4th. And as someone that read that book already and loved it, I would like to get my hands on a physical copy, and that will be happening on April 4th, or it is possible on April 4th. This is a young adult fantasy / science fiction book about a girl named Tress. She lives in the Emerald Sea, and the sea is not water, it's spores. I don't really want to say much because I really enjoyed not knowing much, and I know the whole story's only been out there for a little while, and I don't want to spoil it for other people that don't want to know much going in, so I won't. But I really, really enjoyed this one. I gave it 5 stars. It's one of my favorites by him. Then there's a few here on April 4th as well. We've got Homecoming by Kate Morton. Now, it's been a while since I read a Kate Morton. I think I have one of her books sitting on my TBR shelf, but I think I've read the rest of them, and I always enjoy them, but do feel like they're probably about 100 pages too long. That being said, I still want to read this one. So she writes generally dual or multiple timeline historical fiction. This one we are set in Adelaide Hills on Christmas Eve 1959, and then 60 years later. So in 1959, at the end of a scorching hot day beside a creek on the grounds of the grand and mysterious mansion, a local delivery man makes a terrible discovery. A police investigation is called, and the town of Tambilla becomes embroiled in one of the most shocking and perplexing murder cases in the history of South Australia. And then we're going to flip 60 years forward. So Kate Morton, I believe, is Australian. A lot of her books are set in Australia and in England, but I think maybe this one's just Australian, which is cool. So always willing to try another Kate Morton. Then also on the 4th, there is a book by an author that I've never read from, but I've heard really good things about. And the author is Jennifer Robson, and she's coming out with The Coronation Year. So she seems to write a lot of British historical fiction from what I have seen. And like I said, I haven't read any of them, but I've heard good things. And so she wrote The Gown, and now we are on to The Coronation. So it's 1953, and Queen Elizabeth II is about to be crowned. And I guess it's all about that. My cat really does not like my door closed. He doesn't like it when it's closed when he's in here though either. We'll see if he goes away. So I haven't looked at much like as far as the synopsis for this. I do like to be surprised a bit, but the whole setting with the coronation year that seems intriguing to me. Yet another April 4th release, possibly the last one here. It's called Divine Rivals. This is by Rebecca Ross, and I just read her book, The Queen's Rising, recently, and that is a young adult fantasy, and I enjoyed it and was intrigued to read more. And then I saw that she had this is the first book in a series called Iris at the Front. And this is once again, a young adult fantasy story. I am not a huge fantasy reader. Like, I read a little bit. I find young adult is usually a little better for me because it's not as intense, or as the magic system isn't as deep as like an adult one, so I feel like I can handle this a little better. This one says, after centuries of sleep, the gods are warring again, but 18-year-old Iris Winnow just wants to hold her family together. Her mother is suffering from addiction and her brother is missing from the front lines. Her best bet is to win the columnist promotion at the Oath Gazette. This sounds like almost a little, oh, it is historical fantasy. Oh, really? But the gods part. I'm confused as to when this would be set for historical fantasy. To combat her worries, Iris writes letters to her brother and slips them beneath her wardrobe door, where they vanish into the hands of Roman Kit, her cold and handsome rival at the paper. When he anonymously writes Iris back, the two of them forge a connection that will follow Iris all the way to the front lines of battle for her brother, the fate of mankind, and love. Okay, so this is like fantasy, but a little bit like You've Got Mail, and okay, interesting. I have no idea. Haven't read it yet, but I'm intrigued. Okay, now we're moving on to April 11th, and I've read 2 books by this author and like have so many more I want to read. So the fact that I'm putting another one of his books on my like mental TBR is maybe a little overwhelming. This is Broker of Lies by Stephen James, and this is a Christian thriller mystery, probably I'm assuming in the same vein as his The Pawn, the Rook, that whole series. So this one says, when Travis Brock, a high-level Pentagon redactor, with an idiotic memory? What does that mean? How do you pronounce that? I don't know. He finds a clue to solving the tragic arson that took his wife from him. He risks everything to find the truth and chances losing himself in the process. And in a can I even read? With a terror attack looming on the horizon and a pair of assassins on his tail, Brock drops off the grid and joins forces with the disavowed Homeland Security operative. Together they race to stop the attack before Brock is neutralized by the people he trusts the most. I don't know. He has a science fiction book that I've read and enjoyed, and then I started the other series. I read The Pawn, have another one of the books sitting on my cart, need to read it, but I haven't yet. So here's another one to add to my list of things to read from him. Also on this is the 18th now. Okay, now we're moving on to the 18th. Susan Meisner is releasing another historical fiction book. This one's called Only the Beautiful. I've read a couple of her books. I'm cold. I'm gonna hold my hot cocoa here so it warms me up, but I'm not going to spill it onto the computer. I've read a couple of her books and I've always really enjoyed them. They're always like 4+ stars. So, I mean, I'm gonna read this one. This one is set in California in 1938 and Austria, 1947. A heart-rending story about a young mother's fight to keep her daughter and the winds of fortune that tear them apart by the New York Times. Okay, yeah. So in 1938, we're in California. I can't hold that and actually do this. When she loses her parents in an accident, 16-year-old Roseanne is taken in by the owners of the vineyard where she's lived her whole life as the vineyard's dresser. Vine dresser's daughter. She moves into Celine and Truman Calvert's spacious house with a secret, however. Rosie sees colors when she hears sound. Oh yes! I don't know if I knew this, but I've heard of this like syndrome or whatever this is, where people that the senses kind of do like extra time here. That's really cool. So there's that, and then we go to 1947. I have no idea, but Susan Meisner has really proven herself, so I'm assuming it's gonna be really good. Then I've got a non-fiction book coming out on April 18th. I'm going to pre-order this one. It is by Sally Clarkson, so that's why. It's called Tea Time Discipleship, Sharing Faith One Cup at a Time. And I have read a bunch of Sally Clarkson's books, listened to her podcast, been part of her membership, love the stuff that she shares. And she is like she's turning 70 this year, I think. So she's that older woman that loves tea and loves conversing with people over cups of tea and discipling people with over cups of tea. And so this book feels like a culmination of all of her ministry over the last like 40-50 years, and it's put into like almost a, I think it's a coffee table book. It's a very big, beautiful, it's expensive. I think Canadian it's $48 or so, and I'm definitely gonna buy it because I think it's gonna be beautiful, and it's something that I need, especially after COVID, that push to get out of my comfort zone. And like, it's not even necessarily out of my comfort zone, just remember that other people outside of my bubble exist and I should pour into them. So I'm very excited about that one. Then, oh, this is, okay, we'll jump back in time, forward in time, but like still future time. We're going to April 4th. Apparently I didn't have this one in order. Of course, Jamie Jo Wright is coming out with The Vanishing at Castle Moreau, and I'm actually in the middle of reading this. I think I'm about 30% through, and so far I can say that she's doing a really good job like she always does. So we have 1865. We're following this girl named Daisy as she comes to work as a maid at this abandoned castle slash mansion somewhere in the, okay, Wisconsin, a Midwestern Wisconsin castle. And the owner is a Gothic writer. She writes Gothic mysteries, murder mysteries, I don't know exactly what. And yeah, so it's really creepy, has these like rumors regarding the house. And then present day, our main character Cleo is hired by the grandson of the lady that now lives at this castle, because the lady's a hoarder, so she's supposed to be cleaning it out. And Cleo has her own secrets, of which I don't even know what they are yet, but things are fishy. And so yeah, Jamie Jo Wright does really good with this. Like, she has like a Gothic mystery creepy vibe to her books, and I really like it. I especially like, because she is a Christian writer, the ghosts in her books are never ghosts. So I'm always, you know, like there's hauntings in this castle, and I'm like, okay, but what is this really? Because she's going to explain it, but as of right now I can't explain this. So I have a lot of fun with that. I possibly will be done that book by the time this video goes live. Okay, now, okay, we're obviously always not going in order here, because now we're going back to April 1st. Connellan Cossette has Voice of the Ancient coming out. Now, I've only read one of her books. I read one last month. It would be in my February reading wrap-up. I read Counted with the Stars. So she does biblical fiction, and this is part of the King's Men series that she has, which I don't think has to be read in order. It doesn't have a number here. And so we are following a guy who is the eldest son of a Levite and a Philistine. And I don't really know much, but I do find historical fiction set in biblical times, which I believe is what hers is. It's not necessarily like biblical fiction per se, because it's not following a biblical character, but we are in biblical times. The one book that I have read of hers and others of that same kind of genre slash setting always intrigued me to learn more about the time and that part in the Bible kind of where it's centered, and anything that makes me want to learn more, especially biblical stuff, is good in my books. And then I think I have one last one. I might have skipped over some, but I think we'll call this my last one. Taylor Adams is coming out with a new book. Now, he writes very, what are they? I would say like thrillers. I've read the really popular one, No Exit, and then another one of his, which I don't remember the name of. And I really enjoyed No Exit. It was intense, but interesting. And so I thought I would try another one. I haven't read this one, haven't even requested it, like the arc or anything. But then what really intrigued me, because I have liked his stuff before, I think he's a guy, Taylor Adams. That's one of those names where you don't really know, but I think so. Anyway, this one says, I only read the first paragraph. After posting a negative book review, a woman living in a remote location begins to wonder if the author is a little touchy or very, very dangerous. And I'm like, as soon as you're adding in books and like, that just sounds really intriguing. So yeah, I'm gonna get my hands on this one for sure. So I know there are a bunch of other books coming out in April, some of which I probably missed. Let me know in the comments some that you're excited for. I always love learning about others. I know a couple people sent me some from my newsletter. I send out a bookish newsletter about once a week, sharing a few different things, and I was asking for April releases recommendations, and I got quite a few, and I couldn't go through and look them all up, so I didn't include them all here now, but I'm going to keep my eye out for those ones for sure. So thanks so much for hanging out with me.